Hello, this is a chat we had with Liberty Union Party candidates and with Lieutenant Governor David Zuckerman at the VT candidate debate in Greensboro at the Highland Arts Center. We discussed exclusion of third party and independent candidates. Enjoy the recordings. I'm here with Murray Goima, who is the candidate for the Liberty Union Party for Lieutenant Governor. And tell us why you were here.
Well, I'm here to attend the Vermont Digger debate for for Lieutenant Governor candidates. I was not invited to this debate, but I did receive I did receive an invitation from Vermont Digger. Although I don't think that they realized that I was the Liberty Union candidate for Lieutenant Governor, and I RSVP'd that invitation. So I have a ticket to attend this event, and I'm here to listen to the questions that people have for Lieutenant Governor candidates and perhaps ask a few myself. I've actually never met the other two candidates for this office face to face. I've watched their interviews on Vermont PBS, aka Vermont Public Radio, but I haven't met them personally. So I'm looking forward to being perhaps able to have some conversation with them.
Excellent. So what is your feeling about the being excluded on this debate?
Well, the problem with the basis of the exclusion is that Liberty Union as a party does not use money as a means to persuade people to vote for them. We have no money in this political game. That means it is difficult getting your message to people, and it's in an ideal world, every party and every candidate who presents themselves as a candidate for an office in an election should be given equal time in print and on-air media. In the United States, that doesn't happen. This is a time when the various media outlets make a great deal of money for paid advertising, and Liberty Union doesn't get the coverage that it might. If we took out paid ads in every single newspaper and on air, we would get coverage. You make news by paying. If you want to be the news, you need to pay for it. That privilege. Having money in politics, the most egregious instance of money in politics is Citizens United. That's antithetical to democratic practice.
Can you explain what Citizens United is?
Citizens United makes corporations into people.
Mm-hmm.
And if perhaps then our system is a corporatocracy as opposed to a democracy. Democracy, meaning, a government by the people. And I guess corporatocracy could be considered government by corporation, which is where that is the status of it is called a democracy. The United States is currently referred to as a democracy. However, it isn't a democracy. Now in Vermont, we do have structures for democratic practice. The first and most important being town meeting. Nobody has to pay to go to town meeting, and nobody has to pay to get recognized by the speaker in town meeting and ask a question or respond to a point in the discussion. However, during our political electoral process, one does have to pay in order to participate. So it's really it's a matter of being clear as to whether or not we're in an actual we're living in an actual democracy. Now, I maintain that if people exercise the rights given to them by definition, if we proceed as though we thought we were living in a democracy, we should be able to. Everybody should be able to participate in a forum like this. But I think that this practice of moving away from government by the people, I don't think we ever had it, and because when the country was formed, it was a government by a few people. Very specific group of people were allowed to participate in the so-called democracy, but they created structures that looked as though it could be applicable to eventually to everybody, and we're still moving in that direction. And I think that by presenting yourself as a candidate and attending forums such as this is just one way to exercise the realization of such possibility.
So is there anything else you'd like to say to the audience on YouTube and Facebook?
Well, there are lots of things that I would like to say about what I would do or what my priorities might be if I were elected to become Vermont's lieutenant governor. I'm very concerned about the equation of the view that schools are just a drain on, quote, taxpayers' money. I'm concerned that we've lost the understanding of why we have schools in the first place.
So what do you think about Act 46?
Act 46 is strictly about efficiency, economic efficiency from the perspective of the capitalist parties that prevail in our government. On the other hand, looking at schools from a larger perspective, we see that schools are the center, or could serve at the center of our communities. Schools are in fact the first community to which our children become part of, and through our children, their parents become part of that community if they didn't already live in that community. I don't understand why every school in the state of Vermont does not function as a CSA, Community Supported Agriculture, which would bring in people who are retired or the elder population, people who have been farming all their lives and understand and know how to farm in this particular environment, and younger people who have moved into the state because they're interested in farming. The whole community can be involved in a community-supported garden, which provides not only education for the students that are there without burdening the teachers, because you have farmers actually running the CSA, and it feeds the community. And each school could have its own community root cellar. So, and there are just many, many things that can spin off in terms of learning and value, community value that comes from a garden. Secondly, there's much concern about the issue of climate change. For one thing, most of our Vermont schools are built in wide open. They're not built in the depths of a forest. They're built in open areas. So I don't understand why every school in Vermont does not have a solar array on its roof, which is not only providing electricity for the school but for the community as well, and its own subsection of the larger grid. And then in that way, one of the big expenses in Vermont of schools is keeping them heated in the wintertime. And most schools, a lot of the schools in Vermont have oil burners that are long been in need of replacement. So instead of replacing the oil burners with new fossil fuel burning heating units, why aren't we heating our schools with using solar power? So that's the first thing that I would, and the other part of Act 46 is it's arrived at the part where schools that had been in, or communities that had been willing to consider consolidation have already consolidated. There are a number of schools that have not consolidated and are actually taking this case to court because, again, they're would like to not be forced to consolidate. So I defend, the right not to be. The state should not be forcing schools and communities to consolidate. You destroy the heart of a community when you take the school away.
What is your feeling with democratizing the schools and how they're run?
I could talk for hours on that subject. I've spent my life as a teacher, and to begin with, in terms of things that need immediately to be changed, I think there should be no such thing as standardized testing at the elementary school level. That system has, and the paperwork that accompanies it has made it impossible for many teachers to teach, and people have had to. Teaching is a 24/7 profession. I know people who don't know anything about teaching and working in elementary schools think that, teachers have such long summer vacations. Most of that summer vacation is spent either wrapping things up from the year that's just passed and putting things away in your classroom, and attending professional development workshops and courses, and then an entire month before school opens, teachers are actually back in their classrooms, sometimes painting the walls, preparing for their students' arrivals, meeting with parents, making home visits. It's not a 9-to-5 profession. Teaching is not a 9-to-5 profession. And in today's world, with most parents having to work, both parents having to work, or the single parent having to work, the school also functions as the community center, the family, and all of the support centers that are support services that are needed. That is where those support services are located and should be located. I mean, the school is the center of the community. As far as the democratization of the school, I think that the teachers who teach in any given school, everyone who works in the school, from the janitor to the person who assists if they provide a lunch program, everybody who works in the school is important to that community and that school, and should have a say in the conduct of affairs in that school. Sometimes we have, people refer to disciplinary issues. Well, if a child is having difficulty getting along in school, it's not. The response to that difficulty should not be punishment. It should be the community getting together, the whole school community, and working with that child. Why is that child angry? Why is he or she acting out? It is something that the community can heal. It's not a crime to act out in school, and should not be treated that way.
So what is your feeling about police in schools?
Under no circumstances should members of the police be called. There's no reason for calling police into a school.
Excellent. So I think we'll talk a little bit more later. This is a good 14-minute interview. Thank you, Murray.
Well, thank you very much.
Tell me why you were here tonight.
Well, I'm here tonight. I'm Scott Norman Rosenthal, right? Because debates such as this that are going to be held between the major party candidates should include alternative and minor party candidates.
I got distracted.
There used to be rules and laws about a lot of this stuff, and I'm not saying Vermont Digger certainly is, and I don't just say this to be polite or but they're an admirable entity. I love them. But, we have people too running for governor, lieutenant governor. We're all with the Liberty Union Party. I'm running for side judge, more properly referred to as assistant judge in Orleans County. I'm a developmentally delayed individual. I'm on the autistic spectrum. I'm one of those people who believes that autism is not actually a condition, but an effect and a relatively arbitrary label, and everybody's on the spectrum. That's my belief. I'm rational. I'm hyperactive and obnoxious, but I'm also rational and honest. And I've heard such horror stories about, what some assistant judges have done. I try to render, it doesn't matter who I like or not, I'm going to try to render a fair decision. And we're here because the essence of democracy supposedly is the voice of the people. We don't live in a democracy. Democracy is something that people do, not some inherent thing that we have, let alone that the government gives us. And if you don't do democracy, then you don't have democracy. Alternative parties, so-called minor parties, if we're on the ballot, we deserve respect. That's how it is. So we're here hoping that we can make a difference in debates such as this one in the future. At least that's why I'm here.
Thank you, Scott. Very, very well put.
It must be why you're here, because considering, because you don't like going out, you like staying in with the pets. So.
Okay, so we'll talk more later.
I like your sticker.
We're here with the Liberty Union Party, and what are your feelings on the fact that there's just Democrat and Republican here?
Well, I'm a progressive Democrat, so let's be clear about that. And ultimately, I think we need to have a better voting system that allows for more voices in the system so that more people are included in these kinds of debates. Because I think ultimately what happens is the folks that are operating the debates select down to the more likely candidates that are in the lead. And our voting system, unfortunately, makes it so that there's always only two, or maybe, in a rare situation, three, quote, viable candidates. And that really pushes out the opportunity for more voices and more ideas to be a part of the process. So fundamentally, it's about the voting system and campaign finance that I think are rooted in why organizations like Liberty Union or others are excluded when it comes to this level.
Can you say a word about Citizens United?
Well, certainly I could add on that Citizens United is a complete step in the wrong direction with respect to viable candidates when campaigns can be bought. Even in my own race, there's actually more money being spent by out-of-state PACs, they all happen to be for my opponent, than I raised, and about the same amount that he has raised, which completely changes the game and again pushes out the opportunity for other voices to be a part of the process.
Thank you.
All right.
I caught this exchange between Murray and David Zuckerman. I only got it about halfway through the exchange, but I think the viewers will find it somewhat interesting.
I think a lot of things that Liberty Union stands for fall within the realm of where I stand on a lot of things. Right?
I think so too, and I think that perhaps what I'd really like to do is that just succeeded in leaving one of those jobs just because I said I wanted to take a sabbatical. When you have this other party who has, for instance, the main difference between the Democrats and Liberty Union is that the Democrat Party is a capitalist party, and the Liberty Union is a socialist party. So what are the aspects of socialism that actually work, and what would that really mean? What could that look like? And how?
Well, for me, universal health care, it means getting corporate contributions out of politics. those two things alone would be huge steps. I think there's others as well. But
The other thing
I think
one of the issues, the difference is the difference between the $15 an hour minimum wage and the universal minimum wage. Those are two very different responses to
Right.
the same issue. And
and they're actually not universally separate either.
They aren't, but by the time $15 gets passed, it'll be that $15 will be valuable as $7.
Well, it'll be as valuable as about $12.80 today.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in other words, and so you can keep moving that bar, but what we really want to be thinking about is moving in the direction of universal basic income.
Which I think both of those do that. But you're absolutely right. No, and I agree.
And you can't say that, but the Liberty Union candidate can plant that seed.
Right. So one opportunity in the future as a candidate is to put out those essays on Digger and on others, so you take advantage of that opportunity you've created for yourself. So that's something in the future I would encourage you to do. But
Anyway, thank you for your time.
Absolutely. You bet.
Take care.
Thank you.
Yep. Sorry.
Well, I hope you all enjoyed our video of the Lieutenant Governor debate at Greensboro at the Highland Arts Center. There'll be more coming, and forgive the rough quality of the video editing. I am just learning how to do this. And have a good night, day, or morning. Thank you. Bye.